everyone. This is Helen and this is Aaron. We are continuing the conversation with Kip Baldwin on infamy and the choices we make in love and the things around us to help us grow and experience life in the highest ways we can, and really appreciating each moment with the depth that is available to us. So, Kip, welcome back. And
hi, Jennifer. It's been so long. Gosh, it's so good to hear your voice.
It's been like a whole minute or two.
I missed you. Gosh, so good to hear you.
It's always good to have a conversation with you. And it's to me, we were talking about choices and things with the infamy, and that we do have choices to make. And like you were saying, there's a choice to really clue into other people to see what they are here for you. And everybody else outside is kind of an actor in your script, in your little experience. And do you feel that with that, and you were saying in the conversation that there's at times you go, God, I wish it was different. I know this is how it's going to be. Do you think you have any insight of ways to change the situation to a better way than past lessons, shall we say? Or is that what lessons are for? Is so you do learn there's a different way you can kind of weasel through this. What is that?
It was funny when we were on break. I went and I was checking some social media stuff, and automatically I opened up Facebook and Rumi came up. Love generates love. So I thought that was a great way for us to lead into the next hour of our conversation. I don't know. You know, I don't think I can change anything. I think things happen as they're supposed to. It's just like we were talking about how I choose to be when those situations come up. I think we always face challenges, and then it's just our needing to be the best version of ourselves, the best vision of ourselves in that moment. And all we can do is try. I fall short all the time of who I know I am, which sounds odd, but you get drawn back into this. And in fact, there was a Buddhist teacher who was on Oprah a couple weeks back, and went over all the Buddhist teachings on how to live life. And Oprah said, she said, "Is that how you live your life?" And he said, "On my good day." And that really resonated with me, because I feel like on my good days, I can, everything's perfect. I can make everything wonderful. On my bad days, I'm not as tolerant sometimes. I'm not as empathetic as I should be sometimes. I'll get too drawn into the illusion sometimes. Some days I'll forget to, have that off-world experience, that observer experience, and this will become real to me. And on those days, it's much more of a challenge than on the days where I can look at this as a really great book, as a really great film, as a really great play that I'm a part of. On those days, it's great because I really can, I let go. I don't have the tie to fear that I do when I start to believe this is real. So I guess that same sort of detachment works well in those challenging moments. When I find myself, I try to remind myself to go there. I can't always. Sometimes it's just you get overwhelmed with the energy of the other person or the situation you're in. And in those times, the best thing that I could advise anyone to do is to leave. Okay, give yourself a breath. Walk away for a moment. Get perspective again. Get your detachment. Get your concern back, where you're approaching this not from a me perspective, but from a they perspective, a we perspective, where you're seeing the larger picture, where you're not just caught in that moment and that emotion that's being fueled by the situation, by that person that too easily becomes self-replicating, that too easily are those emotions right up in us, and now we're enhancing those negative feelings of someone else, and they're enhancing our negative feelings to the point where if we don't stop, then it turns into something else entirely. Maybe that relationship that could have grown and gone somewhere had we stopped and just taken the breath, now we've crossed the line. Now we've gone into manifesting illusions about things that the original upset had nothing to do with. And nothing good stays from me from trying to argue away through a situation. Nothing good stays from being in that bad energy place. You're not going to, it's not a problem solving place, it's a problem creating place. So walk away. I mean, if you don't have any solutions in the moment, that's okay. You've got infinity to figure stuff out. But know when to walk away.
And it's interesting you should say that, because I'm becoming more aware of the situations. Like, if I'm worried for money, all of a sudden everybody around me comes to me and say, I'm really worried about money and paying this and that. And then as soon as I realized I switched it, and then everybody else is calm. It was interesting to really get and see and understand the energy that I was putting out. And I wasn't talking about it. I was just feeling it. And the vibration went out. And I was able to, once I figured out what that vibration was, raise my vibration up and switch what I was attracting in my life. And right. I think that's what a lot of the lessons I've learned is, get conscious of what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and understand what I'm putting out. I'm going to get back one way or another. And being really more conscious of what is and what I am actively participating in, because I always have a choice.
Eckhart Tolle was talking about on our show the other week about how it's so important to stop and really get that sense of yourself in the moment. Feel your breath going into your lungs. And like you were saying, not everybody's into meditation. I like to meditate. Sometimes I don't want to come back from meditation. But you were saying not everybody can do that. But you said everyone can take that moment. Feel your fingers. Feel the energy tingling in your body. Then realize that energy that you're feeling is connected to all the energy around you. And then you can just feel engulfed by your connection to everything. And in just starting with that breath, that sensation in your hand, it releases you from that anxiety that you might be having. At least it does.
Right.
Yeah,
I was reading some animal cards, and I pulled one and I got turtle, and it literally says, take a moment, take off your shoes, and feel the bottom of your feet connected to Mother Earth. Just take that moment to ground yourself. It instantly shifts your energy. I mean, if I'm really feeling anxiety, I said, all right, it's time to put on some music because my body's jumping. Let's get some music and just dance. Change it. Make me, feel something more, get in a better rhythm with what I truly am wanting to experience in the moment instead of letting it kind of control me. Just somebody else is really has a lot of anxiety around you, you will pick it up. And it's, like you said, that detachment to what's around you and inside you to see if it's really helping you or not.
Absolutely. I mean, connecting with our animal guides is so important. Before the interview, I mentioned here that we talked about turkey being a giveaway eagle and vulture. Well, I had an experience yesterday. As I mentioned to you, I volunteer to take care of the park rangers' horses out in Mill Valley. And for the past few weeks, every morning I go out there and there's turkey, which is an incredibly powerful Native American totem. They called it the giveaway eagle because it gave its body away to the tribe. So it's all about giving back. It's all about everything that we've been talking to this point. Well, as if it wasn't already being ingrained in me that this is where my joy comes, this is where my happiness comes from. I got out yesterday morning and I'm watching the sun come up, and I started to hear my turkeys. I'm getting ready to go work with the horses. Well, now there's 3 tom turkeys, 6 hens, and I just sat down in the dirt road and started watching them. Next thing I know, here comes one of the hens right up to me. Then one of the toms comes up, all floated out. Then I'm surrounded by 3 tom turkeys and a hen, literally within me being able to reach out touch. And they just walked up to me. And I was going, okay, that's about as powerful. You need to keep doing what you're doing.
That's
and it's really remarkable when you look for the signs that are there, when you look for the messages. More and more, I'm convinced that we are nowhere near the most intelligent species on this planet, despite all of our technology. I think when you really take time to learn animal language or just experience their energy and hear the lessons that they're trying to teach us, they're so much more intelligent than we are. I mean, a good kind of real-world example of that puts a physical face on that thought is you look at the tsunami in Thailand. And I just watched the movie Impossible, and then there was a story that we watched on National Geographic about Minam, this little elephant that saved this little girl from being taken away by the tidal wave. All the animals, only people died. None of the wild animals died. How is it, and including the native people that lived there, a lot of the people that actually lived on the island didn't pay attention to the fact that the water went out like it never gone before. Instead, they were rushed in, started to take up the fish. Meanwhile, elephants were gone, all the birds had gone, all the wild animals were gone. So, again, tell me how we're more intelligent, even in a practical way. If we're not even able to live and understand the signs that this planet gives us to protect ourselves, what good is all our technology? What good is all our visions of power and control, all these illusions that we have of ourselves? Does that really, I remember a long time ago, I had this guitar player I was working with, who's actually from Hawaii, and we got into this conversation about, does it, and I was specifically talking about dolphins, and I said, I think dolphins are more intelligent than we are. And he said, yeah, they can't make guns, they can't do this, they can't do that. I said, okay, so which is more intelligent? The fact that you can live at one with your environment, in harmony with the planet that you're on, or the fact that you're living in dissonance and discord and apart from your planet, yet you can create all this stuff. Which is the greater intelligence?
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, if you think of, there are more and more stories on the news about dogs, cats, saving people's lives because they know something's up. One thing I learned from my dogs a long time ago, if my dogs don't like someone, I pay attention. Because they know something about the character. They're able to sense the person's true intentions. And so I learned a long time ago, and I had Akitas for many years. And there is, I think it's Socrates that says, animals are the philosophers of the world, that dogs are. And they know better how to live in balance with this world. Animals overall, we can learn so much just by following what they're doing. And I do believe that now we're beginning to get the understanding as if something is beginning to disappear, we are saying, okay, something is wrong here to correct. Often it's too late. Like the black rhino supposedly is gone, which is sad. And we've been watching them deteriorate, and we just let it go. But there are many forms that were thought to be extinct now are showing up again. So it's very interesting that the cycle of life on Earth will continue. as everybody was so worried about the end of the world. But it's a new paradigm, and I think that it is time for us to really sit back in nature and say, all right, what do you got to teach me? Because I know you got more. There's so much more to learn from them.
And that touches on something interesting, the idea of extinction. As much as it's something I've been giving a lot of thought to, as much as we're afraid of our own personal extinction or death, we seem infinitely more concerned about the extinction of our entire species, which I find really interesting because we spend so much time trying to hasten our extinction arrival, yet we don't want it. So there's this weird schizophrenia that exists around how we created our civilization. It's like on one hand, we're horrified of dying. We're horrified of all of us going extinct, yet we don't do anything to stop it. In fact, we're doing everything to aid it. And at the end of the day, it's okay. As I said earlier, it's okay. We're going to change. We're going to pass on. We're going to become something new. Everything will. These ideas that we have, these fantasies we create, whether you look at the guys in the tech world, and they're all, I'm going to download myself into the singularity, and I'm going to put it on, and I have this other reality, and I'm never going to die. Yes, you are. I don't care how advanced your technology is. Simple fact, the sun is eventually going to burn out. Any sun we go find and inhabit a planet around will eventually burn out. Eventually, in a trillion years from now, the stars will have drifted out so far in the night sky you won't see any stars anymore. So this idea that in any way that we will continue to be as we are, even in the sense that we will be able to maintain this one vision of ourselves through consciousness and create some alternative reality within the machine, well, for me, a couple of things. One, you're doing that anyway by dying. You're going to another reality, creating another reason to live in. Two, what's powering your technology? If you're looking at it from a tech standpoint, like I tell my friends who are way into that, I'll say, well, you still need someone here to chop wood for you. And I'm perfectly fine doing that in the acoustic world. Because all of these things are still stories we're telling ourselves that somehow we're not going to die. Somehow we are not going to become extinct. And I think if we were to accept those things, we'd live better than we do. We would cherish this existence more than we do, because right now we're not really living, we're surviving. We're doing everything we can not to die, but we're not actually enjoying living, thriving in this existence the way we would as individuals or as a species. Because when we then look at, in just the same way as an individual does everything it can to want to create some sort of permanent immortality for itself, meaning that a permanent immortality in this body, in this form, which is impossible. Everything changes. It doesn't, you're not going to be this way all the time. On a larger scale, civilizations do the same thing. So we divide up borders, and we say, okay, I'm going to maintain for mine. And if they go away, that's fine. We need to make sure our borders are safe. We need to make sure our culture is sound. You're not realizing that it's all codependent. We all have to help one another. What you do in China affects me here. What I do here affects you in Russia, and so on and so forth. This idea that there's somehow ways that we can separate this is ultimately only hastening this demise that we're terrified of. Meanwhile, what we're really saying by not wanting by saying that even if I die, I want my species to go on, we're acknowledging that connection to one another. We're acknowledging that we want to continue to be, not just as individuals, but as a collective. Yet I don't think we're actually telling ourselves that consciously. But underlying, that is the drive, that's driving us. That's driving us to do the things that we think will save ourselves, but they're ultimately destroying us because we're not accepting the what if. We're not accepting that things change, that everything changes, and the fact that, okay, it's all part of life's process.
Well, there is, they often say, what is going to be your legacy? And I often say, you know, it could be the words that I write, but I think it's more how I make somebody feel. It's in a sense, being unforgettable. That person that you inspire by that smile, that lasting impression you put by, I mean, we both are on Facebook and a lot of social media, and we both, I know you get a lot of feedback saying, thank you so much, it's so inspirational, I really appreciate everything you put on, because it's just what I needed to hear. That's making a difference in the world. And I get that message all the time. But yesterday somebody was saying, you put the best inspirational quotes up, Jen. I don't know where you get them from, but you always hit the mark. If it resonated with me, it's going to resonate with someone else.
Exactly. And it may not resonate with everyone, but even if it's just that one person, that's meaningful. That's incredibly important, because that one person will touch somebody else, and so on and so forth. But yeah, and you know, the funny thing is people get so caught up in the words. What the lasting memory is, what the lasting legacy is, isn't the word, it's the feeling. And it's always about the energy that's created from what you create, never about what you create.
I think that something that you've experienced, and I know I have, is you write something and there's almost like a high vibration that comes off of what you said. And it's not necessarily the actual words, but there's a feeling that is put behind the words that really does make that impression.
Right. For me, I know, like, the way what I write comes to me usually is that I'll meditate and something will come to me during the meditation. Mm-hmm. That's what I post every day. Sometimes, like, you know, I'll get, like, when I'm sitting there watching the sun come up with the horses and the turkeys while I'm inspired by it, and that I'll share. But for the most part, it comes every day as I meditate, and I'll know, like, I'll lay there and I'll have a ton of ideas on things to write, and I'll get quiet. And that one thing will come through very clear, and it will say that's what you write. And the same thing when I look for pictures to go with, you know, what I write. I'll look for a long time. I mean, until that one picture just says, yep, that's the one. I don't know where it comes from. I stopped even thinking about it. I know it's not from me. I know it's coming from other places, and I feel so blessed that it's gifted to me to share. That you know, that I'm being asked to think about things like this in order that I can reach people. I take no ownership for any of it, you know.
But it's just amazing how many times I'll go back to things that I've written and go, wow, that's really amazing. I wonder who really wrote that. Because it's like an out-of-body experience when I write. And just, it is such a blessing. That is when I feel the most blessed, is when I'm able to write it and share it. And I don't even necessarily need the feedback, but the vibration that I'm putting out is most important to me, that it is very positive and very refreshing and reassuring that everything we're living through is temporary and we'll get through it.
I had a really interesting experience within the past couple of weeks, an observation that made me look more at mortality versus immortality, how we appreciate life. And it came about, you know, along the lines of how we get inspired or we inspire. It came from kind of an unusual source. It wasn't something I always spend a lot of time thinking about. I wish I could remember her name, but there's this woman who communes with angels, and it's not, she doesn't do it in the sense of like biblical or religious aspect, not that there's anything wrong with that. Whatever works for people, I'm 110% supportive of it. As long as it's all about helping one another, caring for one another, whatever your belief system is, that's awesome. I mean, I never take anything away from anyone else's belief at all. But she wasn't coming at it from a religious perspective. She was coming at it from, angels were like other beings, basically, who were having a different experience, and there were different types of angels. And she was describing, like, Michael. She said, oh, he's always the angel of fire and, vengeance and blah. And she said, no, he's like, he loves the sun. He's like the surfer angel. I kind of gave me a kick out of her description. And then they turned around to started to talk about Lucifer. And she said, no, he didn't, there was no hell. He didn't go to hell. But he did really dislike man. He really disliked man because he perceived that man had brought imperfection to his paradise. This caught my attention. And he wanted us destroyed. And it wasn't until a young angel spoke up and said, but how can imperfection come from perfection? That resonated with me on a couple levels. One, it made me really look at myself again and the world around me in another way. And say, this is perfect. This is absolute perfection. This is the experience that we're supposed to be having, even though sometimes it's hard. But it's just like I was saying earlier about my own life. I've gone through a lot of things in my life that, I think in the moment you say, God, I can't get through this. This is horrid. But looking back, I would never change those experiences. Couldn't it be that these experiences will look back at some point in our infinite existence the same way? Gosh, I'm so glad I have this experience here now because it's made me this thing I am, in my next existence, my next illusion, whatever. And I started looking at it from Lucifer's perspective and thinking about the story that came to me was that he then chose to come to earth, not to hell, but to have the experience of what it meant to not be in paradise, where everything was perfect, where he wasn't immortal, where he wasn't that close to the source. And in doing so, it gave him, and this is where the story was coming to my mind, I really put myself in his experience, or her experience, because they're gender neutral. And I started thinking about what a true blessing it is to have this experience of forgetting that you're not going to die. Because as I become aware that I'm not going to die, I wouldn't have the appreciation for life that I do now had I not gone through this experience of facing my mortality. And I think that all sorts, we have experiences of all sorts of beings. And as maybe an angel, you come here and you learn a greater appreciation from that heaven, that paradise that you existed. And maybe not took for granted, but didn't fully understand it, even though you thought you did. You thought you did to the point where you could summarily dismiss some new creation that manifested, some new being that manifested, simply because it didn't fit into your idea of what perfection was. And that's an angel having that perception. So you think about it from a human perspective and how little we know. Who are we to question the perfection of this? Who are we to question the perfection of the experience that we've chosen to have to help us grow, to help us ascend? The role that we chose to play because it looks maybe just interesting to us. Who knows? But I do know that this experience for me personally has given me a greater ability to embrace my immortality, to embrace the infinite in a way that I honestly don't feel that if I hadn't had everything that I've gone through, overcoming the fear of dying, overcoming all these things that we go through as mortal or seemingly mortal beings in this illusion. Once you get past that, you go, my God, this is the greatest blessing of all. I'm now going to spend my eternity, and every time I'm going to have that puppet, and I'm going to hold it in my hand, and I'm going to go, that's what it felt like to be immortal. How glorious is this?
And it really, when I was in a car accident, I know I've mentioned this before, but I went to literally the void of creation, and all I heard was, you are loved and loved. Don't forget that. And it made such a huge difference of understanding. That's what we feel about, is love and appreciating everything that was given. And understanding that there is no reason to really be upset about anything, because it truly is temporary. even being in the void of creation was a temporary experience, but it made a huge difference in the perspective of how I was living my life. Did I necessarily want to be in a head-on collision with a drunk driver? Not necessarily, but it served a purpose. And it was a very interesting experience that opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I really hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
So with everything that you have experienced, and, you know, I just keep getting the sense that you have this urgency, and I do mean an urgency within you to teach. Do you think you've always had that feeling that it's time to teach?
It's funny that you say that. I do feel that, and I think that for me, it's like I don't take that. That's not a frivolous idea to me to be a teacher. It's something that I don't take that idea lightly, and probably why I haven't, maybe pursued it on a larger scale yet. Is that one, I wanted to be very comfortable in my understandings, and I also wanted to get to a point where as much as possible, the man who says he's egoless separates his ego ball. I want to get to a point where I have as little ego involved in it as possible. But for me, it's like I take it really seriously, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on what I understand and what I've remembered, and what I want to what I want to be able to share with people when I teach them, because I do feel that there's a lot that I need to share that would be helpful for people. And on a smaller scale, like I said, I do it all the time. It was something you and I were actually talking a little bit about. Sometimes it's also tough from just a practical standpoint, with the world being the way it is, to figure out how you go about, making an existence in this world, doing that. So that, that's a more practical challenge, but most of it comes down to me is that I really wanted to get to a place where I feel grounded enough to be a good teacher, to be a good listener, to be somebody not telling, but to be somebody showing and saying, here's an idea, where you go with it from here is up to you, but here's what I've learned along the way. Here's how to think, not what to think. And that's really, I think, as much as anything, what I'd like people to, be able to teach people is really to teach them how to think. What they do with that information is then up to them. I want to share my experience and say, here's how I've gotten to where I'm at, which is ever evolving. We're all ever works in progress. But I would like people to know that don't lock yourself in a box of what you've been told. Nobody knows anything. There's an old, it's been said by many cultures, I think I'm probably saying it, and it came from Sanskrit because that's what Joseph Campbell written in one of his books, but the man who says he knows doesn't. The man who says he doesn't know does. And that goes back to, I think Plato said something similar to that effect as well. It's kind of been a common theme of wise men throughout history, is to get to that point where you really don't know. And all I can do is share what I have remembered and give them a way to be moving forward, not to tell them, this is the only way, that this is what you need to believe by any stretch of imagination, but just think. Open your mind. Just think. Think from wherever you're at. Don't feel lesser than anyone. Don't feel entitled to compete with me or to compete with anyone else as far as your level of awareness or accomplishment or intelligence. Allow yourself to be exactly how you are and start your journey from there. The question, really question always. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take don't suddenly say, I know, because that's when you get stopped at. You don't. You don't know. You have to choose how you want to be and then go about enhancing your understanding from there. But it's all about how, not being told what to think, but how to think. And I think it's just been, for me, I want to teach that, but again, that's something that I take really seriously. I take my word very seriously. I take my interactions with people very seriously. And if I'm going to sit down and make that a more full-time thing, which I think I'm getting ready to and closer to, I just wanted to make sure I'm up to the task and that I'm the highest version of myself I can be before I do that. Because I think it is good, and I don't want to be, I hear so many teachers and people throughout the ages, gurus of all different types, and they all come to the table of impressing upon people almost that they're perfect. And I don't even think, Jesus really did that during his life. But a lot of modern day gurus throughout history, saints, you name it, they don't share their flaws with people, and they don't own that aspect of themselves. They don't share enough about how they got to where they're at, or more importantly, the ongoing struggle in the moment, because they're afraid that if they show whoever they're trying to teach that they're not perfect now, that it will somehow invalidate their teachings. And it doesn't. It should strengthen it. But it's also a challenge as a teacher to figure out how you share that in a way that people go, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that's part of it, is just figuring out how you go about teaching these lessons in a way that you can share your imperfections with people, as well as the fact that you do have something for them to learn, or some a greater understanding for them to gain from talking with you, or being around you, or listening to what you have to say. But it's not coming from a place of knowing it all by any stretch of the imagination. It has to come, from my opinion, from a place of not being the man up on the pedestal, but being down on the ground with you, saying, I'm just like you. I'm going through the same struggles on a daily basis that you do. I just know that for me, that this works. This makes my life feel fulfilled. If that works for you or gives you a starting point, great. If it doesn't, then just take what I said and go out and try to find what does work for you, how you want to be, how you can relate to people in at least a similar fashion to the way that I'm trying to, because I do think that connection to one another is one of our most important life lessons.
As you were speaking, it reminded me of something I saw from Cheryl Richardson, that somebody had kind of called her out of being rude, of being many things, and she just erased the comment and then went to meditation. And as she was in meditation, Debbie Ford was, her whole life was about the shadow and acknowledging it, came through to her and said, you are all those things. Acknowledge it. It's okay that you have those flaws, but don't hide them and suppress them because you feel like you're something better than that. It is a part of you. Acknowledge it. And I think that message is really needed to come out. In fact, I wrote Cheryl Richardson and said, thank you for being honest and open, that you're a human being. I appreciate you sharing that story, because so many teachers they don't always walk their talk. And I appreciate that you want to be the highest person you can be. And, I love you, Kip, but guess what? You are. In this moment, you are the highest vibration you will always be, because, let me rephrase that, in this moment, you are always going to get bigger and bigger. There's never going to be a moment that you say, yes, this is it. So as you were talking about, I want to have the deepest understanding, and guess what? You're not going to get there. As you were talking about, well, that's a great excuse. And I've used that excuse so many times myself, and spirits literally now say, it's time for the next step.
I agree. I agree absolutely. I just think that there is a right time for everything, and now I'm beginning to feel it's the right time. I haven't felt it was the right time, maybe to put it more succinctly. And over-explained. I just haven't felt it was the right time, whether that was inaccurate or not. That's how I felt. And, I'm feeling different now, so maybe now it's the right time. It wouldn't have made enough sense for me to try to pursue something that I didn't feel right about, rightly or wrongly. I needed to feel, right about it. And I now feel right about it. I haven't before. So I understand what you're saying, but I just had to, on a personal level, feel right and feel that the timing was right to do, to move forward to teach. And now I do. And I didn't before, for whatever reason.
And I apologize for kind of calling you out on that on air, but at the same time, I'm calling myself out, because I'm doing the same thing. Yes, I am ready to be all I'm supposed to be as the teacher, as a wayfarer, because there's so many things. We both are pioneers in so many ways. It's time for us to stop hiding and really show ourselves. And I think that's when we put something together. So I'm challenging both of us to say, all right, Spirit, we're saying we're ready. Let's see the unfolding of exactly what we're supposed to do. Because
absolutely,
you and I, it's time for it to unfold. We're stepping up to the plate now. Universe, all right, we're open to it. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how many people, and I've done it in the past, and that's how I trip myself up. Oh, I gotta wait for the right time, and then the time came and went, and I lost that opportunity. Now another opportunity always shows up again, but right now it's like you've got to be so aware. This is an opportunity. Take it. So it's.
By the way, you gave me a good chuckle there, because that's exactly what I'll do. I'll call somebody out on something, and then I'll go, I just said that because that's something that I see myself doing. It gave me a good laugh, because I do that all the time. I go, wow, that's actually, I'm saying that to myself. I do that with my writings all the time. I'll read what I write, and I'm going, oh, who wrote that? That's a really good thing to pay attention to.
Yes. And then you slap your face and say, oh, yeah, really, it is time for me to step up to the plate, and not find their distractions. And there is, in this world, because of everything that's going on, it's so easy to distract yourself for what really is meant to really help you and help others. And I'm finding myself not lingering so long on social media. But part of me saying, what am I missing by not being on there?
I go and I will post my writings around, and then I walk away, because I can only take so much, to be really honest with you. And when it's good, it's great. When it's not, I'll want to respond to things that are better left not responded to. Get into debates that really aren't. I'm getting a debate with somebody who, and again, this isn't coming from the place of ego, but that just aren't going to get it. And there's no point in going down that rabbit hole. So I'm finding for myself personally, it's I've always used. I think I realized pretty early on with social media that it can be a great tool or it can be a great distraction. And I really look at it as a great tool. I get the message out. It gives you a place to basically, publish your work every day. And to connect with the, the few people who, if somebody reaches out and really wants to talk or whatever, then it's awesome to be able to connect with people from all parts of the world. But I also realize that I need to, like you said, not let it be a distraction from focusing on the wonderful life that's out there, the wonderful life that, is calling me to walk through the woods, to be with, my family and enjoy my day with the people I love. It's like that, that's not a good way to spend time.
Right. It's there's been, and I find myself, and we had this discussion on how you want that face-to-face interaction. And that's great. It's available all the time on social media. But that one-to-one where you can shake the person's hand or give them a hug or look directly in their eyes and truly have that connection, that's something I'm hungry for, and I'm finding ways to do it more and more because it does make a difference. And that's something that I think the whole Internet community is finding that it's great. Post it on there, but go have a real life, that real connection.
To that end, is there something, if you don't mind, there's something that I wrote that I'd like to share with your audience if I could real quick?
It's all yours.
Okay. Why is it that one of our greatest fear is personal unavoidable extinction death, and even greater than that, our species-wide unavoidable extinction, that we do all we can to intentionally to hasten its arrival? We push each other away savagely, barbarically, doing all within our power of our very limited intelligence and even more limited wisdom to destroy ourselves, when our greatest joy, our greatest sense of feeling complete is our connection to one another and blind, soul-level happiness we feel from seeing and helping one another to heal, succeed, achieve, ascend. I said our personal and species-wide extinction is unavoidable, and it is. For no matter what we do, how far our matter-based technology advances, the sun will burn out one day. As will all the other suns we may ever find. You see, everything of matter in time one day dies, changes, transforms into something new. This is not just the foundational understanding of all faith, but the foundational understanding of nature's cycles and even physics. But while these are certainties, they are not endings. They're just part of life's infinitely unfolding process. So perhaps, if I could be so bold to advise, it would be a good idea to, rather than surviving, warring, destroying, consuming, trying in vain to avoid the unavoidable, control the uncontrollable, we should instead to accept what is, as it always will be, thriving, nurturing, living every moment as the highest possible vision we can imagine of ourselves, of our species, of life itself. We must experience this illusion and all illusions fearlessly, as we would if it were the last moment before our extinction. As in truth, it may well be, and if not now, soon will be, in some near moment next. Thus making every moment a moment of greater awakening, awareness, remembering that all that matters, all that ever matters, is not matters, but the eternal, infinite love we share and are. In doing this, we stop looking back, regretting, angry over what could have been, and what we perceive to have been taken from us. Instead, rejoicing in the abundant paradise that is, and all the paradises yet to forever come. I welcome my death, my unavoidable extinction. In facing the fear of my false mortality, I have gained a profound appreciation for both my true immortality and the love from which it is sourced. I accept that all I can do is accept, never knowing, never controlling, just being loved.
Wow. Powerful stuff. That's amazing.
And I feel that with all my heart and soul, that if we would, and kind of our common thread here, if we would just step back, we would realize that all of our problems are self-created, that they're all us pushing each other away when all we really want to do is hold one another. All we really want to do is to make each other feel less afraid, less alone, more connected, Yet because of our fear, we do the exact opposite. And I really think that it has pushed our species into insanity. Because I can't, for the most part, other than just accepting what is as our chosen experience to have, as a chosen role to play, there's absolutely no reason to be the way we are. And again, we can change any of that any time we want. Will we? I don't know. But what I do know is this: no matter what happens, if tomorrow we manifest a new reality, which we could as a collective, if we choose to, we created this one, we can create something new. But if we don't, wow, what an amazing experience. I get to be here at the time of my species' extinction. Is that why I chose to be here? To have that experience, to have that unique understanding that could only come from having that experience? Maybe. Whatever may come, I accept it, and I rejoice in it, and I say, my God, what a wonderful life to have had. What a wonderful time to have experienced. It's in the most intense way possible. The overcoming of the fear of the unknown.
But that's it. We talked about this before in our conversation, is really embracing the uncertainty and the unknown with the mystery of life and being okay with it, to dance with the mystery and the uncertainty, and within that, become empowered.
Well, I think it's really important that people understand when they hear the word ascend, I'm going to ascend. They think that they are ascending to something, that it's a destination. Ascending is a process, a never-ending process. And that's something a lot of times I think many faiths of the world don't explain to people. They look at, I'm going to get to heaven. Well, there is no destination. Let's stop looking for that ending. It's literally like looking for a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And what would you do if you found that pot of gold? You'd spend it all, and then what would you have? It's like we have to understand the words we use. We have to understand the meaning behind them. And more importantly, the feeling. It's like we have to understand that this is going to be a never-ending process, this ascension, this transcending that we're all doing. And we all do it, even if it's not to the point of to try and grasp infinity. We're all making incremental steps, and we all have to acknowledge one another for the efforts we're making, and not judge each other too harshly, because we were all more flawed yesterday than we are today, and we'll look back at where we are today and go, wow, how could I have been such an asshole? And we'll have to exactly. That we're dealing with everybody else.
And it's just experience. I mean, as we've been talking, I guess I'm saying a life unexplored is one not worth living. I think Socrates said that, and that has been my mantra. And I think that's why I consider myself a dabbler, because I want to experience it all. And I'm knowingly that mystery, and that there's no way I can experience it all. And that keeps me going further to say, okay, what's next? Let's put that down in a record book saying, okay, I experienced this, and this is my reaction, and okay, what's next? And embracing that I had that experience with someone, and it might have been someone long distance. It could have been someone that's been in my life for a long time. But have that acknowledgement of that experience and thank that person, that animal, that tree, that rock for that experience of sharing that moment. You might not have it again.
Yeah, and when we say experience it all, it's like we wouldn't know what to do. Well, actually, we are experiencing it all. We have, but we only have the ability to comprehend what we can comprehend right now.
Right.
We wouldn't know what to do if suddenly the floodgates were open. We would literally just shrivel. When I first was having that experience with the infinite, when I was a child, I would get up and literally get physically ill. I would take in as much as I could until I couldn't take in anymore. I think if all of a sudden the floodgates were open and it was just to pour into me, I would explode. I would just go, I'm done. I'm back with God. I'm back with whatever you want to call this infinity love. I'm just one with it. I have no individual self anymore. I have no identity. I'm just gone. Because that's really what would happen.
Literally, I can deal with that. So believe it or not, we've only got 3 minutes left. So I want to make sure people know how to connect with you and find out more information about you. So how can people connect with you, Kip?
Anyone can connect with me on Facebook or Twitter. Anytime, send me a message. I'm having a hard time accepting more friends because I'm kind of maxed out in that area, but I will always take messages. Always open to talking with people. So please reach out to me on Facebook. Check out my page, Just Love, which has all my daily posts on it. So, if you don't want to hear other things going on in my life, you don't have to. On another note, I'm just looking for the right editor to do the final touches on my book, and then I'll be getting that out there as well. It's going to be called The Eternal Journey of Being, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everybody. I think you'll see. I hope that everyone sees a little bit of themselves in my experiences and realizes that that everything that I have, gleaned from this existence so far, they can glean too. They can understand. This isn't unattainable at all. Because trust me, if I can get from where I got to San Francisco with 25 cents in my pocket, tearing the skin off the cornea of both my eyes in 1985, being functionally blind, to where I'm at today, anyone can.
And it's an amazing experience. I look forward to your book. It's a blessing to everyone that you're sharing your story and your insight and your perspective. So I thank you again, Kip Baldwin. Always a pleasure. And we will be in touch soon, I'm sure, and have you on with your book. So we can talk more about that.
And thank you always, Jennifer, for giving me a platform to bloviate.
Anytime. So with that, this is Jennifer Hillman.
And thank everyone out there for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening. This is Jennifer Hillman with Each Breath of Air. We hope you gain new insights and inspiration. Till next time, have a great week. It's wonderful to have you here. Take care. Many blessings, everyone.
Just love.